Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Bola Bola Show podcast. On this episode, we are counting down to Russia 2018. We are getting very close. And with me, I have two special guests making their debut on the Bola Bola Show for the first time. Let him introducing a friend from Klang, hometown boy, very famous influencer, very funny guy, Jeremy Wong. Welcome, man.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Steven. It's a pleasure being here. I've been manifesting this for 6 years, been listening to the podcast ever since I think
Why
2020
why
during
you never
COVID.
ask? You just ask. Say the magic word. Yeah.
Was very shy, very shy back then.
Oh,
But yeah, hi guys. My
come
name is
on,
Jer-
man.
My name is Jeremy, and I am a content creator from Klang. Also, I do funny content. My name is Jerstagram_16 on Instagram, and you guys can check me out there. And I do footy content also lah. So yeah, it's a pleasure for me being here as well.
All right, welcome on board. And of course, we have another special guest, Mr. Xavier Lau, whom all I know is a Perak fan, and I know for a fact that he's everywhere lah. Basically, I think for the past 2-3 years, I've seen him in every single event except when Gianni Infantino, Donald Trump, and Surya was in town. Surya Talabadi was in town. Those three occasions I did not see him, but other than that, he's there. All right, welcome to the show, Xavier.
My name is Xavier. Originally born in Muar Johor, but I grew up in Ipoh Perak. That's why I support Perak.
So let's get it started, guys. I mean, what do you remember about the World Cup in Russia 2018? I mean, for a fact that just to give our listeners, viewers a context, when the bidding for the host of 2018 World Cup was done, which was it was done in 2010. It was done simultaneously together with 2018 and 2022. So it was definitely going to be Europe's turn to host the World Cup because FIFA had this rotation policy for each confederation. And if you look at the list of countries that bidded for the World Cup, you had Spain, Portugal, you had England, but eventually Russia won the bid. So what's your take on this? Was it a controversial bid, or is it fair to give, I mean, not to say non-footballing nation, but other regions a chance to host this major event?
For me, it's a bit political. It's very political background because it's quite controversial. I still remember that time 2010. It was like I was Form 2. When I read the newspaper and many skepticism about like the global mood as well, they actually question about why Russia getting the host, why even Qatar for the 2022. So I think it's more likely, I mean, the media will really focus on what happens on geopolitical towards Russia or how. But I think if you for the fact that for me Russia is not to say that they are like a football desert. They consider quite. I mean, they got the football legacy since the USSR era. It also like the first World Cup where Trump was elected as a American president as well, US president. So that time people like many doubts about like whether Russia they can really perform well under this like how say a lot of they surely how say endorse something like very negative or even like something not good about Russia, but the fact that Russia they actually showing some like the soft power towards the global about their how they can influence the world throughout this World Cup. And also I can say that this is one of the World Cup is a social media World Cup. So that time is very the World Cup before this 2018 is really like relying on social media, but the usage are quite I'll say high, and you can see a lot of internet meme, you can see a lot of like how the social media portraying also. Even basically I can say this World Cup is like how say something that really anticipating, and also I would say that how the social media had changed this World Cup and also let Russia showing their soft power. Like previous edition, like how they're portraying the World Cup is throughout the traditional media.
Since he mentioned about social media and those influencers, those kind of things, you being one as well. I mean, how in your aspect, how do you think influencers have played a very important role when it comes to promoting World Cup, talking about the World Cup, creating narratives and all that?
Well, to be honest, from my side, however, if you were to ask, right, because now we are living in the social media age, right? Because back then, my first World Cup was actually in 2010 when I was, I think, around 6 years old. But back then it wasn't around really social media craze, right? Back then you only had
not really.
you had the touchpad phone, so on and so forth, right? And after that, when we fast forward to 2014, then to 2018, then you had the social media age, as they said. So back then, content creators weren't really that involved inside World Cup promotion, so on and so forth. But the most I can see was in 2022 and 2026 right now, where, not to say they were to change the narrative, but a little bit controversial. They were a little bit sort of like changing, how do I say this, the setting of it. For example, like, with the controversy we're going on with Qatar, so on and so forth, right? And also with, USA, now you see like Iran's team is not, being permitted going in, and then you had, DR Congo now. If I'm not mistaken, DR Congo's team were not also permitted from going in because of Ebola or something. But the influencers, they were being brought by the companies to actually just change the narrative and to shifts everybody's perspective away just to focus on the game itself. So I think that's their role. It's instead, if they were to be called, so on and so forth. But if you were to ask me about the 2018 Russia World Cup, right, back then, for me the narrative was I wasn't really focused back then on the political or also the narrative behind it, because I was still very young back then, because I was born when Greece won the Euros, when Portugal lost that. So to say my first ever real World Cup, because when I was young I wasn't really into football until, like, let's say 2018, where I was actually just a young delusional boy, chasing the dream, wanting to be a professional footballer, right? So slowly I was following the World Cup, so on and so forth, and my team to support until now today was still England. So I want to focus more on the football side, where Russia, despite the controversy, so on and so forth, they actually had a footballing name back then, with the likes of, as Xavier said, post USSR, right? They had strong teams like CSKA Moscow, so on and so forth. If I'm not mistaken, being a Manchester United fan, you remember, we were going up against CSKA Moscow. It was really a tough, tough opponent, so on and so forth. They had the likes of the famous goalkeeper Akin Fiv, if I'm not mistaken, back then. And then prior 2 years before the World Cup, you had big names going to Russia also, like, for example, Hulk, Exo Witsel going to Zenit St. Petersburg. And a few years back then, you had Anji Makachla, if I'm not mistaken. You had was it Samuel Eto'o, William, so on and so forth. Everybody was going to Russia back then. They had the money back then. So I think, in a footballing perspective, however, they really had the name, and to for them to host this such big event, big international event, right? Eyes were around them, since they had such a big name, big club, so on and so forth. Can they really do it, on an international stage or not? And after the tournament, what we can see is, well, it was actually okay. It was actually nice, everything was actually, not to say without controversy, but it wasn't really that significant. It wasn't really that big. So I think, and maybe this time we can see another story where the host really qualifies to the latter rounds of the stages, and throughout the tournament we can see that prove to be true. So I think back then, if you talk about social media, right, I think it was the coming of age. It was the start of where like people my age, and also like teenagers back then, right? Everybody was going to the mamak, so on and so forth, with their phones, with their old quality iPhone 6 and everything, right? Back then I was using iPhone 6 as well, recording, posting on their, back then was Instagram before TikTok, posting on their Instagram stories, hashtag FIFA World Cup, hashtag Brazil, hashtag this, hashtag that. It was the social media age of hashtags back then. So yeah, it was very significant. And I think because of that, because of the people's power, right, posting on their stories, so on and so forth, everybody was, those who are not interested in football as well. For example, I have a few friends who were not really interested in football. They saw what we were posting as creators back then, and they were like, wow, this is something I want to be a part of. Everybody going to the mamak, watching Argentina versus Iceland, very crucial match. Everybody was watching that, actually, so on and so forth. So yeah, I think it really does play a big part. So I can say it was really the start of the social media age back then. 2018 was very significant.
Let's talk about Russia opening match against Saudi Arabia. Of course, it was an overwhelming win for Russia. But as a host, what do you guys think? I mean, they exceeded everybody's expectation. Was it a successful run for them? Or do you feel that, other teams deserving better to go far in the competition?
Well, if you were to ask me, right, I think it was not the case of just the other teams underperforming, but it was also where Russia really showed that, we are at our home turf. We really have to show, who we really are. So I think it really does set a really big tone. Because, I mean, of course, obviously 5-0 against, not to underestimate, right? Saudi Arabia, they're a very strong team in Asia. But, in the World Cup, everybody's going to be thinking, just Saudi Arabia, so on and so forth, right? But as you can see in the latter stages, they qualified throughout outside the group. They defeated Spain, even though on penalties, and they just lost to Croatia on penalties as well. And if I'm not mistaken, you had stars back then. If I remember two names back then was Denis Cheryshev and one more. What's his name again? I think Golovin. Back then, these two, they were really big names for Russia back then. Everybody was talking about that. I think Cheryshev scored, I think, like 2 goals in the opening match, or so, if I'm not mistaken. It was the game where he made his name. So I think it was where everybody took a look at Russia and say, okay, you know what, this is something this is a team we shouldn't look down on. And yeah, they proved it, defeated Spain out of everybody's expectation. Actually, a really strong Spain squad, I should say, right? So yeah, I think, it really just does set the tone that, Russia is not someone to really mess around.
In terms for you, what do you think like the overall group stage was like? With the amount of upsets, Mexico beating Germany, or Spain, of course, that arguably one of the best ever group stage matches, Spain and Portugal. What a game for a neutral, back and flow. Maybe unless if you're a Portuguese fan or a Spanish fan, you probably would have had a heart attack in watching the game.
Or a Manchester United fan also, because you were watching the Hayes performances. It was very terrible. I remember getting very worried back then.
There you go.
I think I remember one of the goal scorer is Artem Zuba. The one who salute like this. So it's like, for me, that the first match of the group stage, I think, is already expected, because we know where is the distance, where is the, on the paper itself, we already know Russia is here. The Asian country like these, like Arabic nations, maybe are here. So I didn't expect a final win. Maybe it's 2-0 or 3-0, like they're giving faces somehow like that. So like, for me, that is a must for hosts not to lose first opening match. And for me, that this group stage, we already know it's exciting, but there are some huge upsets as well. Not just only like Mexico defeated Germany 1-0, and they have to fight until the last match, which is against the South Korea. The dramatic 7 to 9 minutes whereby Hwang Hee-chan has scored the very controversial over offside goal, and the keeper kemana? The Manu went in front of the goal of they want to score. He want to score an equalizer, but he really left the post, and that's how the Son Heung-min, he got the chance and make it 2-0. Although South Korea, they were out, but this is also considered a nation proud for them, because they really show their spirits. And also how Croatia has bashed my team and your team also. She went 3-0. And I didn't expect that. I mean, I even watched the live broadcast during that time, and you can see Messi that time, after the first match they draw with Iceland, which is also a huge shock, whereby people put a lot of expectation to them as well. And the second match they lost to Croatia, but in fact Croatia is considered that time a lot of players who are already like in their 80s players, which is quite elderly already. People think like, boleh makan like that lah, in the terms that we can defeat them so easily. This is also one of the underdog story after the Croatia first made in 1998, also showing how these countries has gone through a lot of like wars, or even like a lot of political sentiments behind there, and they're showing like how they're using football to unite the nation. If you want me to conclude, like, it's like a Cinderella story. Is an underdog team, how they can beat the strong team. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you raised a good, interesting point about Argentina's performance in that World Cup.
Yes.
In all honesty, going to this World Cup, I did not put that much of hope, because the build-up was very chaotic. If you remember the qualifying round, we went through like few different coaches, and we had to leave it until the last game against Ecuador, where Messi had to score a hat-trick in order to book that ticket to Russia. And then in the World Cup itself, there were a lot of tension within the team itself. And as a fan who is watching everything from 10,000 kilometers away, here in my comfort zone in Klang, I can feel the tension going behind the team. And of course, that 1-0 draw against Iceland, and following that 3-0 defeat against Croatia, you can see the bubble actually burst. So it was it was quite a miracle to see them actually manage to defeat Nigeria in the last game in order to get past into the round of 16. But as fate brought us, we had to play against France. I knew this was it. I mean, as a fan, you want your team to win for sure.
Yes.
But with seeing France, the squad depth, how structured they were, the system they had, how well they played as a team, the balance of everything, it was very impossible to see us winning the game. Although I have to say that at one point, towards the later stage of that game, Argentina did push. We were a little bit unlucky not to score a very last second equalizer through Kun Aguero. Had we scored the equalizer, forced to get extra time, I mean, who knows what would have been the outcome lah.
If I'm not mistaken, it was Sampaoli, right, who was taking over the team that time. Was it Sampaoli back then?
Forget Sampaoli, was the coach.
Yeah,
I mean,
and,
yes.
yeah, and
But
then
the keeper was worse.
keepers also. I remember them changing the keepers, right? Like
Yes,
lots of time. Yeah,
That's
from Romero to who I forgot.
Romero was not called up for the World Cup. They started with Caballero, and Caballero made that blunder against Croatia. And then, of course, subsequently, they had to start with Franco Armani in the most crucial game. So, kudos to Armani lah. I mean, he put up a very good performance in the most difficult circumstances for a goalkeeper, being asked to go in at the most crucial stage lah.
And if you still remember, it was the scoreline was actually 4-3 lah. So really kudos to Argentina lah, because going into that game, right, everybody was thinking like, oh, France, they are gonna batter Argentina 3-0, 5-0. Even some people was saying maybe just Argentina can just walk away. They are already losing the game. But credits to them, they put up a big fight, 4-3. Wow. Even as you said, Kun Aguero almost got the equalizer back then.
Anyway, Jeremy, what's your take on the fact that small nations, Iceland made an impact, Croatia had an incredible run, Belgium's golden generation finally delivering of course, expectation for them to probably to win the World Cup, but I think they had a good run going all the way to the semi-final, and Japan nearly eliminating Belgium. But so overall, what's your take on the fact that how these smaller nations have improved?
Well, to be honest, right, if you can see through the previous World Cups, the smaller nations, they made an impact, right? But only maybe one or two teams. But this time you can see, as you mentioned, right, Iceland, Croatia going to the final, and special mention to Japan as well. Pushing Belgium. Belgium's got to go to generation, in fact, to extra time, so on and so forth. So I think for Iceland, we know that they made an impact in the 2016 Euros. Shocking, especially myself. Being an England fan, I remember that 2-1 defeat was very, very hurtful. And then to see them drawing against Argentina, a very small nation, if I'm not mistaken, it's also smaller than Malaysia, right? So for them to really like draw a big team like historic powerhouse, Argentina was really wow. The likes of, if I'm not mistaken, they had, who was the striker back then? I forgot, but I remember their coach was actually a film director also.
Coach was a film director,
was a film director also. And then you had Croatia, wow, like we really didn't expect them to make it to the final. We were expecting, best comes to best, maybe the quarterfinals or so on and so forth. But wow, to the finals with a very, as Xavier said, an aging team, with the likes of, if I'm not mistaken, Rakitic, Brozovic, Modric. I think it was already pushing his 40s back then, and then he was still at the heart of that midfield. And then you had Mandzukic, that last minute winner against England. Oh my god, hurts me as well. But then you had like the goalkeeper. It was also an aging person. Subasic, if I'm not mistaken, Subasic. And then you had youngsters. I think they only had one. It was not really a youngster. Also, it was Ante Rebic. Back then, he was playing for AC Milan, I think.
Oh yeah, Ante Rebic. Yes.
Yeah, Ante Rebic was a very amazing. And then you had Japan also. If I'm not mistaken, they were under Akira Nishino. Akira Nishino. After that, he went to Thailand, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was Thailand coach.
Yeah, Thailand coach. I think it was after the World Cup. But you can see them really pushing through, especially against Belgium's golden generation. So you can see, like Belgium, in 2014, they really made a statement. But 2018 was where they really pushed far ahead. The back three, if I'm not mistaken, it was like Kompany, Vertonghen, and Alderweireld. And then you had, prime Hazard before that move to Real Madrid happened. And then you had Lukaku scoring the goal, so on and so forth. And then
De Bruyne also.
Yeah, De Bruyne, assisting from the back. And then, if I'm not mistaken, the right back was Thomas Vermaelen. I think it was Vermaelen, was it? Yeah, I think. And then you can see it was really them pushing, so on and so forth. And I was really expecting them to be in the final, but unfortunately, they lost out to France, the eventual winners. So you can also see it was really a good fight also. So overall, I think from there, you can see that it was really something to show for the smaller nations that, it's not just one of us who could represent you, but it was more than one of us, 4 teams, maybe 5 teams. It's really a landmark, and it's really something for the smaller nations to show, even for Malaysia to show that, if we can be there, why not you? If we can go up against all these teams, and why not you?
Xavier, I want to bring you in because since you're probably watched the game evolve in a long term run, you've seen how officiating with a lot of the controversy, Frank Lampard's goal got disallowed, all these things. And here we are in 2018. Finally, we are having VAR being introduced at the World Cup. So are you in for it or against it?
For me, everything can be changed, right? So I don't think it's like if you brought out like, or maybe VAR has killed the game or how, but I don't think like necessary to bring out in that way. But this is also showing like how the football landscape has been changing a lot also. Because like people will like waiting for that 10 minutes or 15 minutes to wait to referee to check the VAR, something like that. So it actually bring two sides. Sometimes it exciting the game, sometimes it's also bringing an upset to a team. So I don't think it's like I need to against it, because this is how football has been changing as well. Like I even watched one of the episodes regarding that how you have mentioned about how the modern football has changed after the 2006 Germany World Cup. But for me, the real change is started from this World Cup actually. Okay. So there's a lot of like controversial people last time, if like these arguments like the goal line incident on Frank Lampard, which was versus Germany in 2010 South African World Cup back then. Yeah. So I mean, change is good, but it's how the people look on it and how they look on the perspective of it. So for me, this World Cup edition is considered part of the revolution to make the football, somehow the gameplay has been changing. It also changes a lot, not just only the rules, but also how the rules has influenced the players to change their tactics, or how not just only World Cup, but also this VAR also bring a huge impact towards like international football like EPLs, La Liga, or even Serie A, League One, and lately in Malaysia Super League as well. So for me, as a football fan, I would say any changes is a good change, and we should take it as positively.
So now coming to you, Jeremy, England. Yeah. My first question is England is definitely one of the most popular supported national teams in Malaysia.
Yep.
And a lot has to do with the fact that one is, of course, I think it's a colonial legacy. And number two is because the fact that I think generally Malaysians from back, even like my father days as well, we followed the English game very closely. So when people say, all these Man United fans, Liverpool fans, all glory hunters, I said, I don't think they're glory hunters. I think these are all legacy fans. Many of them became fans, not necessarily because they watched the team, but, things passed down from generation to generation. Their parents were supporting of this club, and they became a supporter of this club. And so I suppose naturally, when you comes to major football tournament, you find England as the close kinship because you identify with most of the players. I can understand this back then because there wasn't much exposure given to other football. But why in your case, being in a generation where you know what's happening everywhere, but you still offer England?
Okay, well, it's a very easy answer, but at the same time, it's very interesting as well. Because all right, my actually it started with my kinship with football, right? So, my dad was actually a player for KL back then, but not a professional player, but was like a state player for schools, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. So I think it was passed down from generations to generations, as you said. But my father was a Liverpool fan. So but then unfortunately, his son had to support Manchester United. Because of from my mom's side, my uncles were all Manchester United fans. One of them even had the privilege to visit Old Trafford. I think it was back in 1996 when they lost to Dortmund. I think back then. So I think it was passed down to them. And then when I had to pick a team for the World Cup, right? Eventually it actually started from the Euro. So I was thinking of which team to actually support. And then naturally, being a Manchester United fan, I grew up from the generation of Wayne Rooney, right? So yeah. I was following Rooney here and there. So eventually, by following Rooney to England, I also, supported England, so on and so forth. And then after that, I did my research, on why should I support England, so on and so forth. Then, wow, if this is very interesting, right? So from that research itself, I can see that actually England football actually has a small connection to Malaysian football itself. Kevin Keegan actually played for Malaysia before, if
Yes.
I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think he was being offered to play for the was it the Merdeka Cup? So on and so
Merdeka
forth.
Cup, yeah.
Yeah.
Merdeka
So
tournament,
from
yes.
there, yeah. So from there, my love for England grew, obviously, and then I had, from this era of social media, online, so on and so forth, right? I have a lot of, from supporting England, I connected with lots of, fans, England fans, right? From England themselves, some were from Middlesbrough, some were from Manchester, Stratford, so on and so forth. So I think it's from there, the pride, so on and so forth. And as you said, also, the colonial generation, the legacy passing down. So I think from there, that's why I supported England, even though they were bottling in tournaments, every single major tournament, especially Euro 2021. It was very hurtful, but I think that's where my love from England grew stronger.
There was a little bit of, I remember in between the post-David Beckham generation and before this World Cup, I think there was a bit of disillusion among England national team, a little bit of disconnect with the fans. Then came Gareth Southgate. I think for the first time, England had a national team manager that understood that England being a multicultural country, he understood that, when you talk about players, when you try to connect with them, you can't put, say, a player like Marcus Rashford and Harry Kane in the same pedestal, because they both grew up in a very different environment. They have a different experience. So what was your take on him coming into them as an England manager? And to me, I would say, given the context, what he's achieved, even though England didn't win trophies, I think he's done a fantastic job. Maybe he wasn't good enough to take England to cross that finishing line, but overall, I would say he's done a fantastic job. What's your take?
My take is the same as you as well, because for me, right, I actually supported England before Gareth came in. I was in the banter era, supporting them when Roy Hodgson took in charge, right?
Yeah.
So you had the time where he was picking Daniel Sturridge. I mean, he was informed, but was very injury prone for the Euros, so on and so forth. And then the 2014 World Cup, it was a big disaster. And then prior to that, as you mentioned, growing up, I also heard stories that they were a team full of egos. Yes, you had big players from the Premier League, the midfield especially. You had your Frank Lampards, you have your Paul Scholes, you had your Michael Carricks, you had your Steven Gerrards, you had your so on and so forth. Your John Terry's, Rio Ferdinand, so on and so forth. But there wasn't really something that really connect the team together, right? So it was more just big names instead of having a core philosophy. And then after that, after Roy Hodgson, you had Sam Allardyce. One game, that one win, I think I forgot against who, and then I think it was against Slovenia or Slovakia. Then after that scandal happened, and then came in Gareth Southgate. So when he came in, I remember I was just 12 years old at the time. When he came in, everybody was thinking to themselves, like, all England fans, who is this guy? We only know him as the guy who missed the penalty in the Euros, right? But can he really do it as a manager? Because if we remember, when he was a manager, he wasn't really doing well with Middlesbrough, so on and so forth. But then when he came in, we can see there was some sort of a connection. It was like he was the light bulb, connecting the players. The players were the wires, right? He was the light bulb that sparks everyone's inside. So you can see in the 2018 World Cup, everybody, as I mentioned, everybody was like, oh, they are just group stage done, finish. Best comes to best. Round of 16 or maybe even quarterfinals. They went to the semifinals and they even broke the penalty curse. I remember when we won against Colombia. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that penalty shootout. When we went into penalties, I was like, okay, it's gonna happen again. It didn't. We won instead. And then after that, we carried the belief. That's why, for me, my favorite England manager of all time has to be Gareth Southgate for now. Because yes, obviously, he didn't win any trophies, but he was the one who brought belief into us. Despite his selection of players, so on and so forth, he knew what's best for the team and he knew what to keep the engine running. Instead of, just like keep change. It's like the metaphor is like buying a car, right? Instead of, like just keep changing, your new parts, so on and so forth. Why not keep the engines, which are actually still running well, something like that. So, and you can see he brought on the momentum to the 2021 Euros, went to the final. Eventually, we bottled it up against Italy in Wembley. And then after that, 2022, the World Cup, it wasn't really satisfying, but we lost out to eventual finalist France again. And then in the 2024 Euros, as we can see, I mean, for me, the 2024 Euros was the final straw, because I feel like that's his time. it's done for him here, because we can see the way that they're playing football wasn't really up to where we've seen before in the previous 3 tournaments. But yeah, for me, I think Gareth has done an amazing job. I think exceeded what we England fans expected, because we were actually, used to mediocrity, right? You had your Roy Hodgsons, Sam Allardyces, you had your legendary managers like Sven-Goran Eriksson, and then we had Capello also, but nothing worked. Nothing worked. In the end, we had Gareth Southgate from a nobody to a somebody, and now even England, the English themselves has done a documentary on Gareth Southgate itself. I think it's called Dear England, or I think it's on BBC iPlayer, so on and so forth.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it for us England fans, we will always remember him as the one who really brought England to the next step, from zero to really something. Not necessarily to trophies yet, but to a step where right. It's time for us to move to the next step. It's time for us to believe, and it's time for teams to not look down on us and to show them that we are England, we can win this.
I think I need to add on a bit. Actually, my second team in every edition World Cup is England. I can add on something as well, because my dad last time also, like what you also said, like the colonial side. I don't want to put too far on colonial, because I could say that why Malaysian has been hugely, attached to English clubs, like big clubs like MU, Manchester United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, even Everton, even Leeds United, even what team again? Like Sunderland, even. I even know some people.
Even some Everton fans as well. We have a big Everton fan base.
They always gather at Gringo one, I can tell you. So I mean, even because that time in the early 90s, we can watch these like EPL. It's not like we need to pay or even go to Mama shop, sit and watch the match. We can just sit at home and watch RTM, di bawah khas oleh Radio Television Malaysia that time. So I would say it also brings up the football atmosphere in Malaysia, and why the attach is say when they first watch, it's like like one of my pastor as well in my church as well, he even during one of his preaching, he talked about Michael Owen during that time in how he loved, how he attached to English football, how he fall in love with England team is because the magic has done by Michael Owen in 1998 France World Cup. But I think is the most important thing is he handles the media as well, because if you see every single World Cup, the media will cook up a lot of stories. People are not focusing on what they performing the field. Definitely, we are the football fan. We know, what he performing the field, what the formation he did. But people like who are like separuh masa, like half they half watch football, they half watch entertainment. They will focus the the fiance or even the wife
Spice
of
Girls, the wax.
The wax, correct. So it's like they were focusing on this. And this also like brings a very negative impact towards the English football team. And 2018 World Cup, this one they finally found their tempo and how Gareth Southgate has managed the player spirit first thing, and also how they manage the media. So I would say overall, like I'm also a media student as well. So I understand how the media can bring a huge impact and influences towards the whole nation expectation, the players as well.
I mean, to add on as well, just a small add-on. I mean, to speak about media, right? And also, being a football coach myself as well, right? I'm also very intrigued by how, Gareth handles the players. For example, there was one incident in 2019 where, if I'm not mistaken, Joe Gomez and Raheem Sterling had a bust up in a training ground. So in the end, I think he did he omit someone? I forgot. But I remember everything was settled properly back then. And then while England were playing full flow English football, so on and so forth. And it wasn't just about the formation, as we can see. It wasn't about the structures. It wasn't about how we want this team to play. Do we want to play tiki taka, so on and so forth? It's about we want to have that synergy, not just on the field but also off the field. And that's what I learned. If you have synergy off the field, if you connect with the players and the players connect with each other off the field, then on the field it shouldn't be a problem, no matter what style of football you play. 3-4-3, 4-4-2, so on and so forth. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely true. You put up a very good point there about how important it is to establish good relationship off the field, because that will only have a spillover on what happens on the field as well. And one more thing about England, it's that song.
It's coming home, it's coming
home.
Football's coming home. Oh my, I love that song so much.
When that song first came out, Xavier just born lah, because it came out during Euro 96.
96.
So in your case, Jeremy, I mean, what's your take on that song? I mean, I have to say I so love it lah. I mean, for it's a very classy, nice pop rock tune, very
Yeah.
catchy, nice to sing along with.
All right, so cause that song, right? I know it was released in 1996. It was, if I'm not mistaken, 8 years before I was born. But and then when that song was released, and then it was played throughout every English tournament, but it was in 2018 where I think after defeating Colombia in the penalty shootout, when the song played, we really felt some sort of camaraderie over there. It's like, wow, like this is really what signifies us as England fans, right? It's coming home, it's coming, and we can hear the lyrics: 3 lions on a shirt, 2 remains to be made, and then how many years of hurt, so on and so forth. But it really, shows that no matter from what background you are, and no matter from where you are, from which part of the world, everybody is here for the 3 lions. So for me, it's not just about the tune. Obviously, the tune plays a big part. I remember when I was, training alone on, training my juggling, my shooting, so on and so forth. I played the song on repeat.
Okay.
Repeating about it because it had that vibe on it. It was just not about the tune, not about the lyrics, but it was about the feel. It was about the feel. And then in 2021, the final of the Euros, right, in Wembley, that song played again, and that was what made us believe we were like, wow, this is our time. Unfortunately, it wasn't our time, but the pre-match build up to it, it was like, wow, this is what we want to believe. We finally could live something after so long. After since 1966, during the time of Bobby Charlton, so on and so forth. But yeah, for me, that song really signifies what it means being an England fan, even though it's not the official anthem. Some might say it's Sweet Caroline. Some might say it is what's that song name again? I get knocked out, but I get up again.
Yeah.
But for me, it was actually 3 lions. So because it really signifies everyone, from those who are in the pub, in Middlesbrough, or maybe from us, right, both of us, Steven in Klang, just drinking our teh tarik, watching England from the mama. It really signifies all of us here, being here, supporting England, backing the 3 lions no matter what. So I think that's the meaning behind of it. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe when I sit with you, teh tarik, I'll support England. But
all right, sure.
No
worries. What if England versus Argentina? The one you have to make a choice already.
Come on lah, man. Of course lah, Argentina.
Okay lah,
Argentina, yes.
But of course, this World Cup, and I mean, it wasn't England. It wasn't Argentina's World Cup. It wasn't time for England. So it's France. In your case, Xavier, do you think they were a deserving World Cup winner based on everything what they had and what they produced on the field?
For me, this is about like how a team that already they grab the chance at the right time. And when their form is on the peak, then they can win the tournament. One thing I want to talk about is like how a lot of like these like Gen Z young players, Gen Z meaning like those who born after 1997, and Kylian Mbappé was one of it. So you can see how he shined during the match between Argentina and also France, and how the France has grabbed the good chances and they win the tournament. And also they are quite lucky as well, because when Croatia entered the final, I already expect it's not an easy final for them, because they have already went through so many these process. They even beat England. They even beat Russia, which is a host nation. They even round of 16. I can't remember. Croatia won against who already. I could say some of the players in this in the French squads was also experienced how the biggest upset when they back in 2010 World Cup. They grabbed the best chance, and then they all out and they got the trophy. France, they deserve to win. And also they produces a lot of stars as well. The Pavard, who scored a long range goal against
what a goal.
Argentina.
What a goal.
Yeah, that's a very great goal. And also how Kylian Mbappé shine.
I also kind of expected that this final could have been was going to be like a more of a one-sided final. I mean, Croatia scored 2 goals, which was good. I mean, keeping the scoreline entertaining. But I felt that, you were asking who did actually beat in the round of 16. They actually beat Denmark in the round of 16, one penalty.
Correct.
So as mentioned by Jeremy, it's quite of a very experienced squad that had to go through 2 consecutive knockout games all the way to penalty. Then against England also, I believe they were sort of like I think they won the game in extra time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
want to
extra
add-
time.
So you can see that the fact that Croatia had to go through this very hard-fought run all the way to the final. I wasn't so sure whether the legs can last for another 90 minutes. And we can see that France quality overall was definitely it was there to be seen. So hence why I think they prevail in the final. And I would say, yeah, in a way, they are quite a deserving champion, nevertheless.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't really a big fan of Deschamps' pragmatic approach, but I think it was necessary to go on that level, to go on that basis to win football tournament. So, guys, maybe in this last one, I want to ask you guys very simple, straightforward questions. Okay, we start with you, Jeremy.
Yeah. Right.
Who would you pick as the most outstanding star and your most favorite game of this World Cup?
Oh, outstanding stars. I have a lot actually, because for me, I had to say Mbappé. I had to say Mbappé because it was from there. Like everybody knew that he was a star back then. He was a star back then. But it was where this World Cup was where it really pushed him to another level and pushed him to everybody was saying, everybody was like, maybe he is the chosen one. He will be the successor to Messi and Ronaldo. So yeah, Mbappe. But one more special mention I would like to say is to Benjamin Pavard, actually, to Benjamin Pavard. Not everybody knows him, right, before the World Cup, but from his performances, from that, long range goal against Argentina, so on and so forth, he earned a move to Bayern. He earned the move to Bayern. Then after that, if I'm not mistaken, he went to Inter, and now I forgot where he is now, but I know he's still at a big club, so on and so forth. I think a special shout out to Benjamin Pavard as well, because being a right back, playing as right back for a very pragmatic Didier Deschamps side, right? It's really truly it's very hard, but he did that role well. Especially that long range volley. Everybody was like, you know what? I remember people in my school, they were thinking like, hey, can we recreate that goal again? Can we try to, do that goal again? Everybody was just mimicking him, back then, I think your time was everybody was trying to mimic, Rivaldo's long shots on and so forth. But for us, our generation was...
My time, it was Maradona's goal of the century at 86.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Your time, I think, was Maradona, but for us, it was like Benjamin Pavard. Everybody was like, Pavard, that long range volley, so on and so forth. But for me, if I had to choose one, I would say Kylian Mbappé. Yeah, Kylian Mbappé.
Okay.
Favorite game?
I mean, let's start talk about your team you support from a neutral.
From a neutral standpoint, that 4-3 game, France versus Argentina. That game had goals in him. That game really had, what every neutral fan wanted: goals. Just both teams going for each other. I think, that 4-3 game was truly an amazing one.
Okay. So what about you, Xavier? One name, the shine in this World Cup. He already mentioned Kylian Mbappé, so you have to pick another one.
Definitely I pick another one, Luka Modric. He already 40 years old this year. That time I think if minus also 30 years plus, because for me he was a very hardworking central midfielder as well. He not just only for me, Croatia is not a one-man team. He himself one man can impacted the whole team, even like Ivan Rakitic, Sana. I mean the whole Croatian squad to all in. They unite the nation to at the second place for the and the second for the World Cup, and also he won the Golden Ball, I think, of
Ballon d'Or winner.
Yeah, the Ballon d'Or winner as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, he was the player who said in Mandarin we call 大器晚成, meaning like he's the person who already he's not like Kylian Mbappé. He shined when he was young, but Luka Modric is different. After 30 years, past 30 years old, he already pushed himself until a boundaries, until a limit, and he not just only won something for himself, but also for his national duty, national pride as well. So I think he was a superstar for me during that time. Although, if Argentina masuk final, I will say Lionel Messi lah.
You can save that for the next one, okay?
Yeah. All right, sure, no worries.
Okay, so your favorite game. Of course, I know you're Argentina fan, but don't pick Argentina from a neutral perspective.
From a neutral perspective, I would say this game I watched the whole match, but I didn't. This is not the game that everyone will saying about much. I would say the group stage match between Mexico versus South Korea. That time also one of the alive or dead match for South Korea. That time is that time I can see the Korean side, they are playing, because I also bit biased because I always hope I always take every single Asian representative, especially Korean and Japan, these two teams, it's like Malaysia masuk World Cup. My expectation is to them is like this. So I hope that time when I saw the match, it's like, a Korean faster score like that, win the match so they can qualify for the next round. But in the end, Mexico scored 2 goals. And also Son Heung-min scored the late consolation goal. Consolation goal.
Okay.
And after the match, Son Heung-min was have a meet up with the president of the Korean at the time, and he cried at the tunnel there. I mean changing room thing. So
that was after the game against Mexico.
This is also one of the most significant scenes that in my mind, how he cried in front of the president as well. And in the end, in the last match, they beat German, and they've been, when they go back to airport of Korea, they also been welcomed welcoming by the football fans.
Very Maria.
Okay. I mean, I always had the impression that moment that he cried was after the Germany game, but thanks for telling me that it's actually after the Mexico game.
Well, to add on, if you watch the video properly where he cried, right, you can see someone significant over there. It was Kim Pang-gon. Pang-gon was there. He was the vice president of the KFA back then. He was there consoling Son Heung-min as well. And now we know what happened to him, Malaysian national team coach, and now Selangor FC coach.
Wow.
So Kim Pang-gon was there, if you remember.
Wow, you just brought a very interesting part in every podcast, especially when it comes to this World Cup series, that Malaysian connection. This is
Malaysian connection.
But I actually have one that I want to share, because Australia, when Australia came to the World Cup, they actually had a striker by the name of Andrew Norwood. Prior to the World Cup, 2 years back, he was actually playing for Negeri Sembilan. He was playing for Negeri Sembilan, not in the Liga Super, but in the Liga Perdana level.
Okay.
So his time with Negeri Sembilan was cut short because he, as always, when it comes to Malaysian team, halfway the middle of the season, changing imports and all that. I know how it works lah. So, and that kind of affected him on a mental level. He went through a bit of depression and all that because about a lot of uncertainty of his career. But he eventually pulled through, and about a year later, he was with the Urawa Red Diamonds that went on to win the AFC Champions League. And because of that form, he managed to fight himself into the Australian squad for the World Cup. So it's quite ironic lah, from Negeri Sembilan to Russia 2018. Quite seldom. You always think of players when they play at the World Cup, then only they might end up playing in a country like Malaysia. You never thought when they play in Malaysia is a stepping stone to go and play in the World Cup. So that's the Malaysian connection that I wanted to share. Hey, but thanks, Jeremy. I didn't know. I mean, I knew Kim Pang-gon was somewhere in the scene within the Korean FA, but I did not see
technical director, I think.
He was the I think vice technical director or something like that.
Go ahead.
He was assisting Shin Tae-yong that time.
I think And also to add on maybe a little bit of Malaysian connection as well. That South Korea game, that goalkeeper John Hyun-woo, right? John Hyun-woo, the one who saved every ball from Germany, so on and so forth. So after the World Cup, I've been following him a lot, and he's playing for Ulsan Hyundai, and Ulsan Hyundai every time will travel to Johor to play in the ACL game, so on and so forth. And yes, every time he comes to Malaysia, you know what would happen. Johor would hash them, so on and so forth, and especially after that 3-3 match, in the Asian Cup, so on and so forth. So I think I'd just like to bring that up as a small interesting point.
Thanks a lot. Okay, just to wrap things up, where would you rank World Cup 2018?
I would say this is like, I only watched 2010, 2014, 2018, 2022. But I will rank this as the second after the South Africa World Cup. My following, because the second best World Cup for me, because like I mentioned earlier, how the players perform in this World Cup can be an anticipation to the media or even the mass out there, or even football enthusiasts like me to like keep following, like, maybe this player, or how far he could go. So I eventually follow every single football tournament. So it's not like people like Bangsa World Cup. So I follow everything. If World Cup is one of the best, I would say, breaking point for every single player. It's all about like not just only how the football changed, but how the football consistency has bring up to under the sun, and let all the football, not just only the football fan, but also the sports followers who can understand the football well.
Okay. So, yourself, Jeremy, I know you didn't watch that many World Cups for yourself, but where would you rank 2018?
All right, because I watched the 2010 final. 2014 didn't really follow that much. 2018, it was from the start of 2018 where I really followed each game of the World Cup. But for me, purely based on vibes itself, I would say that the 2018 World Cup, same as Xavier, I would say I'll put it on the second place, because for me, first place 2022 still has a special place in my heart, despite England not performing well. But 2018 is quite memorable because it's, number one, the first World Cup that I really truly followed each and every game. Second, it was the social media era where everybody was, where we can see, as Xavier said, the Bangsa the Bangsa World Cup finally appeared.
Bangsa Piala Dunia.
Bangsa Piala Dunia datang tiba-tiba and all that. But it was memorable because of the England, being an England fan, them going through the semi-finals, so on and so forth, and just me being a small boy, just watching every game, midnight, trying to follow everyone. But yeah, for me, I would rank it second, because for me 2022 still has that, November to December, that vibe still hits different. Like, even though World Cup, as we know, every year it's still June to July, but for me 2022 was something special. But 2018 still holds a special place in my heart because it's the first ever World Cup I truly followed. So yeah, I'll place it second place, purely based on vibes and England going through that fight itself lah. So
Okay.
So what about you, Steven? What about you? How would you rank this World Cup?
I would rank this World Cup purely on the fact that let's put it this way if it's always going to be, we always tend to be biased because whether your best player, your favorite team perform, but for me, I would say this World Cup, I would say somewhere in the top 10, not my top 5, but somewhere in the top 10. I think overall, in my opinion, Russia pulled off a good job for hosting the World Cup, because the years before the World Cup build up, we started to see a lot of negative narratives about how fans are they going to be safe in going to Russia and all that. But I think overall, at the end of the day, it was a free incident World Cup. Fans, in terms of everyone who went there, including Malaysians who went to that World Cup.
Yeah, I had a friend actually. I had a friend who went to the Spain historic game between Spain and Portugal. Overall, I asked him. I mean, he's rich lah, and he has the privilege lah. So I did ask him like, how was it? He just told me like it's his first experience and everything was safe lah. Everything was well, as you said lah. It was all hosted well. It was organized well. No safety problems, so on and so forth. Just went there, watched the World Cup, balik, masih selamat. So yeah,
there you go. So I think overall, I would say they pulled off a good job as a host. And in terms of post-World Cup legacy, well, that's an entirely different topic to discuss.
Different story,
I can say the 2018 World Cup is considered one of the, towards Malaysian, one of the cheapest World Cup that Malaysia could afford, because the flight tickets from here to Russia is way cheaper compared you go to USA or even Qatar. Even that time, one of my ex-colleague lah. So he studying engineering in in Russia. I can't remember which part already. I think Moscow. So he took a train overnight to St. Petersburg just to watch a World Cup game. So it's very good atmosphere and also very human friendly World Cup lah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for both of you for able to take the time and come on this podcast. Any last words first from you? Okay, introduction, we gave the young man a chance. Outroduction, we'll give Xavier the chance. Okay, go ahead. Any last words?
Any last words? For me, that I did enjoy about the show, because for me that it's good to let people know about this is a very casual talk about how the football has influenced us as a football enthusiasts, all of us. There needs more shows like this bola shows, like how Steven you organize this, and also it actually bring in an impact towards the society as well. And also besides football, for me personally, I'm not sure about Jeremy lah. So I watch football and I learn about politics. Football is not just only 22 players, 2 at the goalpost, 10 person chasing one ball. It's about everything.
Yourself, Jeremy, last words.
Last words. About the World Cup, I would say I'm excited to see what's ahead in this next 1 month. I will be in Penang because of my exams, so on and so forth. So let's see how it works out. Because with my friends, maybe go to Mamak and watch, so on and so forth. Right? And then about the show, as I said, I've been manifesting this for 6 years. Listening to your Bola Bola podcast ever since COVID, and maybe hopefully to be one of your guests one day, maybe talking about Asian football or maybe Malaysian football itself. With Alvin and Bala missing these two also.
Okay.
So,
all right. Yeah, definitely. We'll try to arrange one where all of us can sit together and talk, because all three of us are from Klang. So
Yeah.
you being someone from Klang also, you're welcome on board, man. All right.
No
Yeah,
worries, no
sure.
worries. So
Okay,
it's a
okay.
privilege, lah. It's a privilege, lah. It's an honor to be here, lah.
Sure,
So
sure. Thank you so much.
I
Thank
can
you
go
so
Klang
much.
as well lah.
Boleh,
Can,
boleh,
can,
boleh.
can. Boleh, boleh.
Yeah
Okay,
lah.
okay. All right, folks. With that said, we will end this week's episode of Russia 2018. Big thanks to Xavier and, of course, Jeremy. And we please follow us on all our social media, on all our platforms as well. Give this video a thumbs up and, share to all your friends. And we'll look forward to the next episode, because next one will be Qatar 2022, the one last episode before the Piala Dunia starts in Malaysia. So thank you guys. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.